Hello and welcome. My name is Elizabeth Kiesler and I will be speaking about plagiarism and cheating among U.S. athletes for my ICM 552 final exam. According to a survey of college presidents from the Pew Research Center, cyber plagiarism is at an all-time high among college students. Inevitably, the birth of internet has presented a new dimension of cheating. Now, search engines have made it so easy to instantly find authors' work and then copy and paste it for the use of academic papers, blogs, and assignments. You name it. Which leads us to the ethical issue I will be discussing. Athletes across the country are being held to a higher standard than other students, and this has resulted in many athletes plagiarizing papers using web sources and cheating on tests given over the internet. In fact, college faculty members are contending that they are complicit in these academic shortcomings. An obvious tension between academic integrity and on-field dominance. With that said, let's review some recent cases that have shed light on this issue. The first case example I would like to discuss is 2007's Florida State University of 23 student athletes being accused of cheating on online internet exams when the president reported the findings in a letter to the NCAA. According to ESPN, the letter reported the details as such. First, the athletics department learning specialist provided unethical assistance to athletes. He provided answers to online quizzes and tests. He suggested a student's test be taken by another student not enrolled in the course. And he typed numerous papers for students who did not qualify for the service. It's important to note that the case was believed to have been started to embarrass the AD, Dave Hart, and as retaliation for rightfully forcing the resignation of Jeff Bowden. So, to consider that, the president knew of this misconduct, but was motivated by anger. So he spoke up, and that was the reason, not because these athletes were in the wrong. After the case was brought to light, some students from the 2007 semester indicated that it was common knowledge among the student athletes that the tutor would help with exams in the class. The tutor confirmed in an interview with school auditors that he had been assisting with answers for the online exams since the fall of 2006. And as a result of this scandal, 12 football wins were vacated, 22 wins in men's basketball, NCAA postseason baseball victory, 1 national championship in men's track and field, an NCAA tournament victory in women's basketball, as well as other wins in these and several other men's and women's sports. The second case example that I'd like to discuss is much smaller but deserves recognition to provide a different perspective to athletes plagiarizing and their academics. According to an ESPN article published just last month, football players are capable of intimidating teachers into silence. This happened when a professor sent an email to an athletic advisor stating that her students, which were football players in her class, were plagiarizing, coming to class late, and disrupting class. The story went corrupt when the advisor reprimanded the players. But not only did he reprimand them, he showed the players the email. And after seeing the email, the players confronted verbally confronted the professor, and needless to say, they effectively intimidated her into passing them. And the professor never spoke of the incident again in fear of harassment. The third case I would like to discuss is a case from the University of North Carolina from last fall when a football player was yet again caught plagiarizing. Only this time, not only did his professor miss it, but so did the university's honor court. When McAdoo sought to return to the team last year after accepting the honor court findings that he had received impermissible help from a tutor that footnoted and sourced one of his papers, he challenged the honor court's prompt to the NCAA of him being permanently ineligible. At the point of challenging this decision, he was forced to produce his paper for the state superior court proceedings. Due to these being public, message board commentators of a website seized the paper and found numerous examples of word-for-word plagiarism. The case resulted in the university acknowledging that the honor court does not have anti-plagiarism program to catch cheating, and rarely do they investigate allegations beyond what's brought to their attention. The UNC faculty was also surveyed in regards to the honor court system, and while results varied, professors claimed the court was too lenient on cheaters, and several professors suggest preferential treatment to athletes by the honor court officials. In an archive from ESPN's Outside the Lines show, ESPN correspondents spoke with University of Tennessee's professors on the question of whether Tennessee is providing its players with a meaningful and substantive college education. A few statistics and quotes stuck out to me, and will you too, especially Professor Sachs. Alan Sack is a former Notre Dame player, and he is currently a member of the National Faculty Group and a professor of management at the University of New Haven. He said just this, in quotes, "Faculty are complicit in the academic shortcomings of athletes, and it is a national problem. I myself have been a friendly faculty member, and probably if you talk to some of my students who have been athletes, they would say that Professor Sack has, in fact, helped out a little bit. I've been wrong. I was very wrong. It is not in the best interest of my students to pass them along. It is not in the best interest of students to be changing their grades or allowing them to cut as many classes as they like. And in the last year or so, having been involved in these issues, honestly, I think I've become a better teacher and a better professor." Palmyra Brummett, University of Tennessee's professor, also commented in response to Alan Sachs. She said there's a lot of pressure to give leeway to student athletes that other students do not get, and that it is both unfair to athletes and unfair to the students who are not athletes. This archive revealed some statistics. Data revealed that starters with the 9 lowest GPAs were 31 times more likely than a non-athlete to receive an incomplete that turned into passing. A faculty report from last year found that 45 players on the 1998 National Championship team have less than a 2.0 GPA, just above the NCAA minimum to play ball. But rarely does Tennessee ever lose key players to academics. So what? I ask you, is this starting to make sense? Athletes are receiving special breaks that they otherwise would not receive. At universities, where football dominates, it's clear that academic integrity percolates. Let's face it, teachers don't seem to be so surprised that they aren't doing their due diligence. In fact, many admit to the unjust behavior. But in all these cases, they wished these cases were cared for better. Which brings me to believe that I should start with the justice approach. At the end of the day, this sums up the issue well. Setting student athletes to a higher moral standard than regular students is not fair. For more than one reason. Professors are cheating their students. And it depicts both favoritism and discrimination. It gives benefits to athletes without justifiable reason and imposes burden over other students and professors. Just because student athletes help universities collect millions and millions of dollars, bringing in television dollars, ticket sales, and licensing fee, this doesn't change the story. This is still unjust and wrong, and there should be no exception, and no pressure created to keep athletes eligible. Plagiarism is illegal, and cheating is wrong. Athletes should pay the price, the same price that any other ordinary student would pay and would be expected to act, and so should professors allowing for the misconduct. More care should be given to create an environment where student athletes have the resources and time to complete their academic studies honestly. That way, their education won't be cheated.